Oh, sorry. Here, you gotta listen to this.
Tinky Winky, Hanky Winky, Dipsy, La La.
It's so good, right? It's amazing. What is going on, guys? Today we're actually back with what could possibly be the final deep dive that we end up doing inside of the Jungle Cup. And oddly enough, today the Pokemon that ended up being most voted here at the very end was Electrode, which is really interesting. I'm kind of glad that this got voted up. It was basically just, you know, one guy going Electrode, Electrode, Electrode on, you know, several different videos. But one thing that I do want to mention just really fast, we are going to shift gears on how we actually do the voting for deep dives. I've talked about this in the past, how it's a lot of manual work for me to go through comments and copy and paste and, you know, do all the manual work for that. So I myself have come up with a way to automate that a lot easier for you guys. I will go ahead and give you a hint that it is going to have a large integration with the Discord server that I run. So if you guys are at all interested in controlling the direction of, you know, the deep dives and which way we go, definitely make sure you join the Discord server down below. And inside the Discord server in the next day or so, as soon as the Mirror Cup gets announced, pretty much we're gonna go over how to start voting for the next upcoming deep dives. But let's actually keep that secret just a little bit longer until the Mirror Cup gets announced. But today let's actually go ahead and get into our Electrode here. So Electrode is actually a pure electric type Pokemon, maxing out at 2099, which is actually pretty decent for the Great League, but with a 0-1 attack, 15 defense, 15 stamina at level 27, you can't actually hit that 1498, which does allow us to actually participate in the Great League while also having the maximum stat product for our Pokemon here. And according to my spreadsheets and all the numbers that I have, we do have a 47th in bulk and 35th in stat product, which is actually pretty respectable considering that there's roughly 200 participants. We don't even drop below the 25% mark there on bulk, and that's just pretty freaking gnarly. And of course, all of this does come from our base stats here with a 173 on attack, 173 on defense, and a 155 on stamina. That is actually not too shabby. I mean, those are all relatively close together. They're not super skewed towards one stat versus the other, so that's actually not too bad. Always get in a rush. I always get excited to talk about a new Pokemon and I forget things or I mess things up. So moving on to our moves here, we do have quite the move pool to actually work with here, and I'm actually pretty intrigued by some of these moves. So in the fast move area, we do have Spark, Tackle, and Volt Switch. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Spark is basically the big outlier here. I mean, you could go with Volt Switch. You're giving up 2 whole energy per turn for a measly 0.88 damage per turn there. So that's not really for me. I mean, it's even less if you factor in stab for both moves there. For an extra 0.4 damage before stab, that's just not worth it for me. Spark is definitely the clear winner here. I definitely think that with Spark, you'll get to these charge moves just as quickly as you need to, which, by the way, these charge moves, we do have quite a few of these. So I actually took a look into these charge moves and I pretty much did what I always do. I take all the charge moves, I stick them in a spreadsheet, and I just kind of figure out how they do up against the meta relevant Pokemon, because those are going to be our more relevant Pokemon that we're going to probably be running into with Electrode here. And I'm not going to bore you guys with the spreadsheet today. It's pretty underwhelming. Basically, Hyper Beam and Foul Play have the exact same win percentage in the 1v1 shield scenarios. So I kind of think it's a toss-up between those two. And it's not like I even looked at, you know, battle ratings and all that stuff. It's not like one move just clearly performs better against one Pokemon versus the other. Literally, like, every matchup is either a win or a loss for both movesets. They both still lose in both scenarios, but it just kind of like a couple of matches end up with a slightly better win here versus a slightly better win on the other side. So Hyper Beam and Foul Play is pretty much a toss-up depending on how you personally like to run. Personally for me, I like the speed, I like the kamikaze-ness, so Foul Play is a lot more up my alley. And speaking of speed, we do have another really freaking fast move here with Discharge only costing 45 to fire. Thunderbolt here actually costing 55, not far behind it, but that discharge there for the speed, plus foul play, is just going to be a really, really fast moveset, and I think that's the one I like the most. But of course, that's going to be up to you guys. Let's go over these numbers really fast here. So we do have discharge for 45 energy. We get 65 damage at a 1.44. After stab, it does get bumped up to 78 for a 1.73. Thunderbolt here for 55 energy. We get 90 damage at a 1.64. After stab, it does get bumped up to 108 for a 1.96. Hyper beam here for 80 energy. We get 150 damage at a 1.88. No stab bonus because we are not carrying that normal typing. Foul play for 45 energy, we get 70 damage at a 1.56. Again, no stab bonus because we are not going to carry that dark typing either. So out of those moves, like I said, I definitely like Spark, Discharge, and Foul Play. And that's going to be the moveset that we basically take a look at today. Like I said, you can kind of give it a toss-up between Hyper Beam and Foul Play. Neither of those are going to be like really disappointing, I don't think, compared to each other. For what it's worth, Thunderbolt did drop us down a matchup, but that's also with Discharge, so having dual electric type moves isn't super beneficial for the type coverage aspect of things. So it just kind of depends on how you personally want to run it. Between Hyper Beam and Foul Play, completely up to you. Speaking of those matchups though, let's actually get a few matchups out of the way with some shield situations here. Looking at our entire cup, we do start with our 0 versus 0, which is a 35.8%. Like I usually say, 50% is usually the mark that I'm hoping to hit there, but 35.8 is kind of lackluster. We then move into our 2 versus 0, which is an 88.1, and actually with that complete shield advantage on my side, I really want to know which Pokemon still end up beating me here. And just like we talked about yesterday with Raichu, a lot of the grass types show up here. Almost every single grass type has a really favorable matchup up against the Electrode, simply because we don't have anything to hit it back with. I mean, grass is going to resist the electric type damage, and we're pretty much just at a disadvantage from the get-go. Next, moving into our 0 versus 2, we actually have a 0.7. Yeah, you're not seeing like 7% there, that's 0.7. Unfortunately, that's extremely low. We only have one Pokemon that we can still end up beating, even though we don't have any shields and they have complete shield advantage. I'll give you a quick second to think about who that is. Pidgeotto. Not too surprising. Next, we move on to our 2 versus 2, which is a 43.3%. So we did get a little better compared to our 0 versus 0, which does mean we do actually prefer to open with our Electrode here rather than we do like to close. Statistically, we are going to win more as an opener. So to actually visualize some of these matchups here, we're actually going to go into PB Poke. We're going to choose our Electrode here with Spark, Foul Play, Discharge, just like we talked about earlier. We're going to give ourselves one shield. We're going to do a multi-battle. And we're going to go up against the entire Jungle Cup. We're going to give them one shield as well. Once we hit battle, you can see in the 1v1, we do actually go up to a 45.5. So kind of a similar situation to both yesterday and the day before, where we've been seeing some Pokemon this week that just end up doing better in the 1v1s. It's kind of interesting. So the first thing that we're going to look at today with our Electrode is going to be the bug typing. We only end up having 5 losses here, and that's kind of not super surprising. We kind of saw a trend yesterday with Raichu as well, where a lot of the bug and flying type Pokemon have, you know, a lot of trouble with the electric type damage that we have coming off. And then the ones that aren't the flying type bugs, they pretty much, it's kind of like up in the air, but generally they do pretty well up against us. And you can see that here is a pretty good depiction of what we've got going on. Venomoth, Beedrill, Kricketune, Ariados, and Parasect, all going to be the losses that we have. We do have 2 ties up against Yanma and Illumise though. And then after that, pretty much everything else is a clean win for us. Next, moving on to the electric types here, we actually end up having 9 losses. And out of the losses, I think it kind of is similar to yesterday yet again, where we basically just have some issues with bulk or speed. So looking at some of the ones that we do win up against, you do see Electivire, Magnemite, Chinchou for what that's worth. Magneton is a pretty important one. Alolan Raichu, Magnezone, that's pretty interesting win there. And then you do see we tie up against Electabuzz, Alolan Geodude, Jolteon, Lantern, and Luxio, so quite a few ties here. And then we get into our losses. You can see Minun, Pachirisu, Luxray, Manectric, Plusle, Raichu, the 2 Rock Boys, and ourselves. So if you were to run with Hyper Beam and Foul Play on your Electrode, you could definitely win the mirror match here, but unfortunately that moveset isn't amazing. up against the entire cup or even up against the meta. So, take that for what you will. Next, looking at the grass types, this one is kind of a doozy. So you can see that we only have 3 wins here. Executor, Roserade, and Celebi are going to be the 3 wins. Then we do have 2 ties, Execute and Snover. And then after that, it's pretty much a done deal up against the grass types. As you can see way down here at the bottom, Torterra, Shiftry, Abomasnow, Grottle, and Leafeon are the top 5 hardest matchups to go up against with Electrode there in the grass type. Next we have the normal type, which like yesterday, again, this is kind of a decent section for us here. So up against the normal types, you can see we do have a lot of the flyers automatically showing up at the top. Pidgeot, Pidgeotto, Noctowl, Chatot, Fearow, Staravia. A lot of those are to be expected. If we scroll down a little bit further, you can see we actually end up having 13 losses in total. Ambipom, Miltank, Porygon 2, Chansey, Spinda, Purugly, Delcatty, Linoon, Vigoroth, Kangaskhan, Wigglytuff, Snorlax, and Munchlax are kind of our big losses there, which I guess that's understandable. Some of those are really bulky. Vigoroth's got a lot of damage output, a lot of spam. Delcatty definitely got some good damage output now with Charm. Some of those make a lot of sense, and I wouldn't argue too bad over those. For what it's worth, Castform, Furret, and Alolan Raticate are all ties, but I mean, I'd say that your Electrode is pretty much going to be targeting the flying types, which between the normal flying and the bug flying, that's kind of like your niche. That's where you're really, really good. Grass types are going to be a hard no-no, and the electric types are going to kind of be up in the air. Next, moving on into the meta section here, we're actually going to go over our shields for our Electrode here. In the 0 versus 0, we actually end up with a 29.4. which is actually lower than what we did up against the entire cup, unfortunately. In the 1 versus 0, though, we do actually end up gaining 0.1% compared to our entire cup scenario. We actually end up having an 88.2 here. And the only Pokemon that can still end up beating us if we have a shield up on them inside the meta, Victory Bell. Which, I guess that's okay. It's utilizing a combination of a resistance between its typing plus Razor Leaf, which is kind of why you don't see any other grass types showing up here, is because basically all the other grass types that are inside of the meta aren't utilizing Razor Leaf, or they possibly don't even have that move. So that's why this one is specifically showing up here, but I'm sure if you gave Venusaur Razor Leaf, it would show up in this category just as well. Next, to move on to our 0 versus 1, which is actually a 23.5 this time. So a lot better than what we had in the previous segment where we talked about our entire cup. There are 4 Pokemon that we can still end up beating out of the meta if we don't have a shield up on our opponent here, which is going to be Masquerain, Magneton, Noctowl, and Vespiquen, which is pretty strong if you think about it, considering that they're going to have a shield where we don't have any. And then in our last shield scenario here, we do run into the 1 versus 1, which is a 41.2%, so definitely better than the 0 versus 0 this time, but still not even better than the 2 versus 2. So let's actually take a look into that 1v1 shield scenario up against the entire meta. Back in PvPoke here, you can see we do have Spark, Foul Play, Discharge, just like we had before. 1 shield for us. This time though, we're going to do a multi-battle with a custom group. 1 shield for them, and we're just going to quick fill it with the Jungle Cup meta there. Once we hit battle, you can see we do have that 41.2 just like we talked about. And let's actually take a look at some of these wins here. So we do have Masquerain, Magneton, Noctowl, Vespiquen, Scizor, Fortress, Magneton, and then our first tie is up against Lantern. After that, we do start the losses with Venomoth, Beedrill, Raichu, Vigoroth, Wigglytuff, Venusaur, Golem, Graveler, and Victory Bell all in that 1v1. So, unfortunately, it's not quite over 50%, so it's not like super relevant, but I have to say, Electrode actually puts up some decent numbers here. It's not great, it's not amazing, I don't think it's meta defining, I don't think it's like anything super uncovered at this point, but I definitely think that it's a nice off meta pick. And considering that we don't have too many of those ground type moves running around, you pretty much don't have to worry about too much of the actual super effective damage coming back at you. So it kind of ends up working out into your favor in a lot of situations if you do want to run Electrode. Considering that we are basically halfway through the entire month, I think that the meta is pretty much defined at this point. I think that Electrode won't be breaking into any like meta relevant situations too often, but I definitely feel like he's a pretty good off meta like surprise pick. Like if somebody decides that, oh, I know exactly what they're running, and then you show up with an Electrode and whip out, you know, discharge and foul play, like they probably will go like, what? So very interesting, especially if you want to run the speed variant there. That's pretty crazy. But that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Always remember that if you do have a deep dive, you need to start getting in that Discord so you can start voting for the next cup. Like I said in the beginning of the video, the Mirror Cup should be out shortly after this video goes up today at some point. Hopefully, they have been releasing it kind of later off in the day, so I hope it's not too late. Other than that, that should be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. I will go ahead and roll that sweet ending footage, which is now shorter than it was before, just for anybody who cares. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you could do that, but if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below about the video. I do highly appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to support me in any way, there are several links down in the description for Patreon, joining the community here on YouTube, or even just directly PayPal if that's your thing. I greatly appreciate everyone's name that's on screen, as you guys have showed some sort of support outside of just viewing the videos, and I thank you guys. You don't understand from the bottom of my heart. So until our next video, guys, I will catch you then.